It is.
I hate it every time it does that. All right, I'm going to clap just so I have an editing. If we ever stumble or anything, just clap that way and then just restart what you were saying. That's how I edit things quickly.
Because it gets a spike.
It gets like a sound spike.
Okay.
So I'm going to clap to start. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Talking About It. I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
Oh, and we're talking about it. I totally started that wrong.
Yes, you did.
Oh, well, we're keeping it. Today, we are talking about the film Two Towers.
Start over. We're not even a minute in.
Hey guys, I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
And we're talking about it.
Yeah. So what are we doing today?
Today we're finally done with the Two Towers book. So now we're discussing the movie The Two Towers. Now we have a bonus episode out about us discussing the movie kind of in between watching it, but this is our official episode about it where we're discussing it more in depth with our special guest, Hannah.
Yay,
Go
Hannah.
ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I roomed with Evelyn for 3 years in college, and somehow
she still lived.
Yes, I kept Evelyn alive. Thank you very much.
I was going to say she kept me alive.
I kept her alive. And somehow never forced Evelyn to watch these movies.
I don't think you even knew I've never seen them, because that's something
Which
that
I don't know how, because I literally watch these movies at least 3 times a year.
Yeah, because I realized watching this film, I recall nothing. Either I was hiding behind a pillow or my mom the entire time the first time we watched it when I was little, or I just never saw it. Because Gollum, as an adult, still freaks me out.
Oh, he's creepy as heck.
He's so creepy.
Gollum's always been an adult.
I don't like you. So Hannah, go ahead and give us a rundown of your experience with Tolkien.
So my experience with Tolkien is mainly the movies. I have read The Hobbit when I was in elementary school, middle school. I had a tough time getting through those riddles, but I made it through the book. I started reading Fellowship shortly after I finished Hobbit and literally fell asleep reading it. But I don't think I was really at the age that I should have been reading it. I reread Fellowship again a couple of years ago, and I started reading Two Towers, and then I got distracted by other books because I had the tendency to read about 5 books at a time, and I just have not gotten back to Two Towers yet.
Understandable. But the reason that we asked you here is because it's your favorite movie.
Yes it is.
Right.
You can't see her, but her grin is very wide. So we'll start right off the bat, I guess. We were just going to talk about our favorite and least favorite parts of the movie just right off the bat before discussing the movie further. But before that, actually, we need to do credits. My bad. So this is Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, in 2002, directed by Peter Jackson, screenplay by Fran Walsh, Philippa Bowens, Stephen Sinclair, and Peter Jackson, based on The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien, starring Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Liv Tyler, Viggo Mortensen, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett, John Rhys Davies, Bernard Hill, Christopher Lee, Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, Orlando Bloom, Hugo Weaving, Miranda Otto, David Winham, Brad Dourif, Carl Urban, and Andy Serkis. That was a lot. Cinematography by Andrew Lesney. Oh my gosh, I want to get your name right because I love the cinematography. Andrew Lesney? Is that how you pronounce that?
That's how I would pronounce it.
Okay. Edited by Michael J. Horton. Music by Howard Shore, which was absolutely incredible. And shout out to New Zealand for just being beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Nope.
What? Oh, did I miss something?
Extended version.
Yes, we watched the extended version.
We watched the extended version. So
Only
the
way to
extended
do it.
version was released in November of 2003. Has over 40 minutes of new footage. But what's really interesting is it's not just really new footage. You get a different aspect of certain things. throughout the movie.
Okay.
They say there's almost no scene that did not have some type of edit to it. The example it gets is when Faramir catches the hobbits. After he finishes talking, he walks away from the camera. In the extended version, he walks towards the camera,
Okay.
and it just gives it a different feel, type of thing. So that's the extended version.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Who's going to go first?
I think our guest should go first since I know what her favorite part is that we're going to talk about a lot during this episode. What's your favorite part?
Do you want me to start with my favorite part or my least favorite part?
Talk about your favorite part and least favorite part.
Okay. So least, I don't really have a least favorite part. I just love the movie as a whole. I do have a tendency to skip over Frodo and Sam scenes because I'm a bad person and don't care about them as much.
Turn her off. Turn her off. Turn her off. She's not allowed on the show. She's not allowed on the
I do
His
them more in
favorite
Return of the
character is
King.
Sam.
I do them more in Return of the King than I do in Two Towers. Probably because I don't like Shelob. But my favorite part is the Battle of Helm's Deep. I freaking love it. I remember watching it with friends in middle school for one of my friends' first times, and it was super late at night and I fell asleep, and I was like, okay, if I fall asleep, you need to wake me up for the Battle of Helm's Deep. They woke me up. I almost kicked them in the face when they woke me up. But Battle of Helm's Deep is the best battle. I don't care what you say.
It is. It was absolutely epic. I remembered nothing, so it was kind of me seeing it for the first time, and it was awesome.
So one of the really interesting things about the two big battle scenes, here in Helm's Deep and the next one, is they try to plug in some of the CGI to automatically do stuff. And when it ran on its own artificial intelligence, all the people behind the wall ran for cover right away.
Oh, wow.
Now, I've been told that by two people that were on the production. Officially, they say that's not what happened.
But unofficially.
Unofficially, yes.
Yeah. That's really funny. Because, yeah, that's terrifying. Those numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll go next. Honestly, my least favorite part had to be the Faramir stuff, because in the book, he's such a likable character. I fall in love with him immediately, and the movie just completely turns him on his head, I think, and I was really disappointed by that. But I do honestly, what's my favorite part? That's hard because it was so good. I think my favorite part might be actually another Faramir part where we get this background of him and Boromir, where we get a little bit more of Boromir's backstory and he becomes a more sympathetic character. I already liked him a lot as a character, like I had a lot of sympathy for him, but having some of that background, which wasn't really in the books, but it comes from like other sources, like was really cool to see and really helps with that sympathy towards him with what happened.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, how about you?
So my favorite part, I actually have two favorite parts.
Okay.
And actually they're not even really parts, they're scenes.
Okay.
My favorite scene in this movie is when Gollum is standing on that rock in the Forbidden Pool, happily killing the fishes. He's just so flippin' happy. He's getting to do what he used to do. Just catching his fish.
Just the puppy dog.
Slamming. Yeah.
It's such a puppy moment in both the book and the movie.
It really is. He is so excited.
My least favorite scene, because it's purely done for a laugh. Tossing the dwarf. It's a dwarf toss.
See, I liked that.
See, I did not like that because it's there purely for the joke.
Okay.
And then another little thing. It's not even a scene. Another little thing I like is the fact that Sam brought a small box of
Right.
salt and spices,
Yeah.
just in case they had a chance.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that further in the podcast. It's been a long day at work, folks. We can make it through. All right, so the movie starts off pretty much immediately with a flashback, which I was not expecting, but I guess they kind of had to remind you about Gandalf some way. So,
well, if they do it, think about it. Last week, so and so, and that's just a week. I mean, Marvel does that on all their shows,
right?
And it's like,
but it was a good way to like start the movie. I think it starts the tension right off the bat. It makes things already like, oh, there's definitely stakes right now, and it kind of reminds you what happened in the last film.
Right. Yep. Sounds good.
And what I thought was really interesting is it starts off like with Frodo having it as a dream sequence, and then he wakes up and it starts with him and Sam adventuring, which immediately differs from the book, because the book, you have no idea what's happening to Sam and Frodo until the second half of the book.
Also, one of the things I find interesting about the whole way it starts is we have the falling of Gandalf, and it's extended.
Yes.
It's even extended in the theatrical version. I mean, this is where we get the idea that, I mean, they basically fall into the center of the earth.
Yeah, and then they fight in the center of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fun. And then Gollum still creeps me out. As an adult, that's in my note. Gollum still creeps me out.
I mean, Shelob, I still can't watch Shelob scenes.
Or Shelob?
I'm excited to see Shelob.
Oh no.
Because Shelob's in the second book.
Yeah, but no, like Shelob still freaks me out, man.
Okay, I'm excited.
I will fast forward through any Shelob scene. No, man.
Okay.
Even watching the Hobbit movies. Nope. Giant spiders are no-go.
Yeah. And then after we kind of see them adventuring and we know that Gollum is following them, it immediately goes to Merry and Pippin, where they are on the orc backs, and they do it, even with the extended editions, you have to kind of condense what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I appreciated the liberties they took with that. Because for Hannah and our other listeners' sake, what happens is Merry and just Pippin tries to escape at one point, purely just to like leave tracks for Aragorn to see.
And to leave the brooch.
But I like the way he's able to kind of leave the brooch on the ground and still like kind of give them some chase. And we see a lot of that, like that medicine, quote unquote, that they have, which is so gross in the movie. And it really, I think it really spoke to how it was in the book for me. Like, I feel like it was able, in that small little scene, able to get what was like, 2 pages of explanation.
Part of the reason the movies are so good is because of how much description he gives.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then also in there is, another part that I don't like that much.
Mm-hmm.
Is so when Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli find the tracks and the brooch,
mm-hmm.
Aragorn's the one who's doing the tracking.
Yeah.
Why is Aragorn a better tracker than Legolas?
Because he's a ranger and has been built that way, and he knows the terrain better than Legolas, who really only knows forests.
But Legolas has been around forever.
Yeah, but he's also a baby in elf years. And he's basically
he's a
teenager.
Years.
He's a teenager.
No, he's not.
He's a teenager.
No.
Yes. He's a teenager or a young adult. He hasn't really left his forest before, versus Aragorn, who has gone through all this ranger training. He's actually been out in the world. He knows the terrain. To me, it makes perfect sense. Why didn't you bring this up in the book?
It doesn't do that way in the book. They're both.
Oh yeah, they're both tracking in the book. That is true. Yeah.
This is also where Frodo starts calling Gollum Spiegel.
No, that's like you missed a few things.
No.
You missed a few. You missed quite a bit.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to talk about it anymore.
But no, what I was also going to say is,
we got Treebeard.
Okay, excuse me, but there's actually
Treebeard
something to
is
talk about.
awesome, man.
Treebeard is interesting. I do have notes about Treebeard, but what I was going to say, I love Gimli in the tracking where they're just like just moving along. He's just breathe through it, just breathe through it. And I just
keep breathing, which reminds me of Dora. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yeah, but we get the famous line, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard, which I will not be playing on this podcast, so help me, but I know of the song, I know of the meme. I was a teenager when that meme came out, so it was kind of fun to see where it came from.
Okay.
And then we see the Rowan writers for the first time, kind of. We see the Rowan writers, and we have like this thing about like the king, the king's son of Rohan. And that was something that wasn't in the book either. But I don't know if this is extended edition or theatrical edition. I don't know the difference. But I was really confused right here.
Okay.
Just because it was like characters that I hadn't seen before from the book.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I caring about this? But I guess it's to kind of bring the Rowan writers in.
Right.
Like a little sooner, I guess. And then we get Wormtongue really quickly. And honestly, he looks pretty much just how like I've imagined him. But I mean, that's not a good thing. It's exactly like, okay, so I imagined him as like a skinnier version of Wormtail from Harry Potter. Like a mixture of like Snape and Wormtail. That's what I pictured in my head.
You're not wrong.
Thank you. I have to make a Harry Potter reference every episode. At least one. But that's honestly how I saw him in my head, was like a Snape meets Wormtail kind of thing. And that's when we get Wormtongue. And he has that like greasy hair look and that like sniveling kind of way about him.
Wormtongue is from the Bible, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where?
I don't remember where, but I know it's in the Bible.
Interesting.
That's also a name it's also a nickname for the devil in Eastern Europe.
Lovely. Okay.
So. And
then my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts, is like when the orcs are all fighting amongst each other, and this guy, they're trying to eat the hobbits, and then they just chop off his head, and they're like, meat's back on the menu. And again, I've seen that meme, but I honestly didn't know what part that was from, and I really appreciated it in the movie.
Well, one of the things I like also is, it's like, can't we just eat the legs? They don't need their legs. All right, so we've been ignoring Hannah. Where are you at right now, Hannah?
With what? Favorite part?
Where we're at in the scene right now.
I do really enjoy meats back on the menus, because I listened to the Friendship Onion podcast, which is hosted by Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan. And so they have a whole bunch of different people from Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing on. But they had, I think it was a Tolkien expert on, and they had made the comment about our orcs cannibals. And they had gone on this whole thing about like, they'll basically eat anything. And I'm like, well, if you think of the movies, they literally chop off the head of an orc and eat it. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with like the progression of that scene with them like trying to escape and then going into the forest and dealing with Ents for the first time is just very interesting to watch.
Yeah. And then we get another very famous meme that I always see, which is the broken toe scene.
Yes.
Okay.
Where he kicks the helmet and he actually breaks his toe in real life.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I see that meme all the time. But I wanted to say at this point in the action, I wanted to get both of your opinions on this, because for me, I thought it was absolutely flawless how they interwove the action, where we have Aragorn like talking about like what's happening, and then we're seeing Merry and Pippin and flashing backwards and forwards as they're in the battle / after the battle, and then like going into the woods. And I just thought it was flawless.
Yeah, I like the way they do the cut back and forth.
I agree. As I say, I've always enjoyed it. It's always helpful when they do that, so you get real time of what's actually happening. And so then, because some movies they don't do that, they're like, oh, like they'll do one or just the other, and this allows you to see it kind of more put together in your brain.
Yeah, well, it's also showing us how good of a tracker and recognizer of signs he is too.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, he does that in the book as well.
Oh yeah.
He's able to accurately describe the scene in the book as well, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. And
then it goes back to Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol.
Yep.
And that's when you had your node.
Right, yeah. And so so Frodo starts calling him Smeagol.
Yeah.
And trying to get him on the other side, trying to get
on
him
their side.
Well, also trying to get him out of that negative space too.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think he's got that much thought behind it. But I think he's like, okay, well, if we're just nice to him, maybe it would help.
Yeah. And he even like confronts Gollum about Smeagol at like in that moment. Like which was really interesting. And we get the freaky bog scene. Now, Hannah, what was I know. It's the freaky bog scene to me.
Bog scene.
But what was your interpretation of like the whole bog scene? What did you think of it?
So, I mean, my first interpretation of it, I mean, I watched this movie the year it came out on DVD. So I was 7, 8 when I first watched this movie. So I remember being like weirded out by it. I may not have watched it necessarily the first time I watched the movie, because my parents were like, oh, like you can't watch this part, we're taking you out of the room and now we return you to the room so you continue watching the movie. Like they did that in Fellowship when Frodo got stabbed at Weathertop. I didn't know that happened until I was like 10 or 11, because my parents had like taken me out of the room so I didn't watch Frodo get stabbed at Weathertop. Which weird part to not have your child watch, given everything else that happens in that movie, but whatever.
I mean, hey.
But yeah, like with the whole like looking down and just like it's basically he's in a trance, but it's very like weird trance to me at least.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And the book doesn't, the book is flip-floppish on it too. It's like, are these spirits and visions, or
is it just preserved dead bodies?
Yeah, or is it preserved dead bodies they see? So
yeah, where it kind of leaves it vague.
Yeah.
And then we get this scene of the Black Rider on the flying thing. Which does it have a name yet? Do we know the name? Is it just the black flying thing?
It does, but I can't remember what it's called.
But
it's called an Nazgul.
Well, no, the Nazgul's riding.
The Nazgul is riding that dragon thing.
What's
the dragon thing
it's called a Nazgul. Literally in the third movie, he says never get through like between a Nazgul and his prey. Is it not called a Nazgul?
Well, that's the Nazgul is the Black Riders.
Okay.
It's what the Black Rider is riding, is what I'm trying to think of the name.
Nazgul ride. What does Google say? Winged horses, apparently.
What is the Nazgul dragons called? Fell Beast.
Okay.
Feral beast.
All right. But that's very important because it shows the movie watchers why the Eagles couldn't fly them to Mordor, because they also had flying things.
Right. And I've talked about it when we were talking about the book, about how much Tolkien hated the idea of there being an air force in the war.
Yeah.
You know, he thought that was so immoral.
Yes. But then it flashes back to the other trio, and we finally see Gandalf. Yay!
Gandalf the White. And I love the meme for that.
Is there a meme for that?
There's a meme for that, yeah. Gandalf shows up, and he goes, now I'm Gandalf the White.
Mm-hmm.
And Aragorn says, why are you white? And Legolas says, you can't ask somebody why they're white.
Isn't that a Mean Girl quote?
That is a reference to
it is from Mean Girls. Yeah, it's from Mean Girls.
Yeah, it's a Mean Girls reference. Not that I've ever actually seen that movie in its entirety, but
such a good movie. I quote it like daily.
I am aware. I actively avoided watching that movie in college with you guys.
But we also we get the hint, and then it's later confirmed by Treebeard that Gandalf's already talked to Treebeard too.
Yeah.
And so the book made that a little less
vague.
Yeah.
So it was more clear in the book.
Yeah, it was more. No, it was more clear in the movie. In the book, it's kind of like.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But then we get Shadowfax.
Shadowfax. I always found it weird that a white horse name was Shadow anything.
That's very true. Didn't think of that.
One of these days, I'll remember to look that up. Find out why.
But we see just Treebeard now with the hobbits reciting poetry, and it's even more boring than the book. And I will talk about Treebeard in a second, but I just love how it's basically J.R.R. Tolkien taking the Mickey out of his best friend C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
To me, that's so funny. What do you think about Treebeard, Hannah?
I love Treebeard. I think the Ents are awesome. If I could find a legit Treebeard Lego set, I would pay whatever amount of money. They don't have it, which is sad.
That is sad. But I will say, I imagine Treebeard a little bit bigger. Like, I imagine him the size of a tree, not like half the size of a tree.
Because the pop that I have has him much bigger than the hobbits on his shoulders.
Okay.
Well, it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not. It's an action figure. It's not a pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagined him bigger, which I think was kind of the just the problem with CGI back in the day, where CGI was still pretty new. So I kind of attribute it to that, but I just imagined him bigger, you know?
I do agree with that, because in the movie, obviously, like, they're not, I mean, they're tall. They're like, what? Probably like.
They're still pretty tall.
They're like probably like 12 feet tall or so.
They're still probably that.
You know,
still humongous.
Double my size, but like, or actually almost like triple my size. But still, I mean, I'm not that much taller than a hobbit. So
you're taller than me.
Right, yes, but most people are taller than you.
That's true.
So like, when thinking about it, and when you think of like, okay, these are tree people, you were thinking that, okay, a tree just walking around, which is weird. I mean, I realize that they're like tree herders, so they're supposed to be able to like move the trees, but when I fully realize, okay, like sheepdogs and that sort of thing are obviously like smaller than sheep, and so you can herd things without having to be bigger than them, but like logically I would think it would make more sense for them to be bigger.
Yeah,
obviously CGI wise that was not necessarily easy to do back then.
Though I will say, like, just jumping ahead slightly, when we see the other tree ends, I adore the variety in there. Like, I absolutely adore the different variety of trees, the different shapes and sizes, where it's not like the Pixar mom where it's all the same person, but it's all different things, and it's really exciting to me, like visually. It really encaptures what I felt during the book. But yeah, I love how they also did Mary and Pippin growing. I thought that was really funny because it's more like vague in the book versus like this is like kind of like obvious, like measuring each other. And I just think that's just, it was so fun. And you had a really good point in our bonus episode about it, but I think you should reiterate it here because I think it was important.
So I have read different people, and I think even Tolkien talked about it, is that this is where hobbits begin to get phased out of Earth because Middle Earth, because they start growing. And they end up becoming
the size of men.
Yeah, the size of men.
Yeah.
So,
which is just really interesting. And then the trio gets back to the Rohan. And my note just says the trios beat the snot out of Wormtongue's thugs.
Well,
that's just my note. And
it's accurate.
It's such a brilliant scene where Gandalf's like, I'm an old man, I need my staff, and then he's like doing a full-on exorcism with it, and a few seconds later, while like the three of them are just like beating the snot out of all these thugs.
No, we don't need our weapons.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, we don't need them. Like, come on. Like, it was just, oh, I loved it. What did you think of like everything with like the King of Rohan and like that whole scene that happened where we see like the burial mounds and the king being super dramatic and all that fun stuff?
So if I recall correctly, a lot of the burial mound, like the whole funeral, is not in the theatrical release, if I recall correctly. Like Eowyn, this is if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong. But I don't think like Eowyn singing and that sort of stuff is in the theatrical release. I did really enjoy how when Gandalf is exercising, what's his face? Elrond? No, not Elrond. No, it's what's Theoden. Theoden. Yeah, when he's exercising him. I enjoyed how they did the transformation for that with like him like basically coming back to life and like clearing everything up. The visual was very stunning to watch, like just based on that. Theoden's got some drama going on. I feel like he's justified in it, you know.
Agreed. I will agree with that. Drama begets drama.
Yeah, and
but you're talking about Eowyn, singing. It's interesting because when you first see her looking at Aragorn, your mind automatically goes to, it's a sexual attraction, and it might be a little bit, but later on, you realize she's admiring him because the king is back. She's admiring him for his kingly status and for the way he
conducts himself in his business. Yeah, I for sure got more of an admiration than like, I mean, yes, there's like some attraction, but I definitely found it a lot of like admiration and a lot of attraction due to his, like, yeah, he's a handsome dude, but also because of his attributes, because she's not that like shallow. She's a ruler. They even say it in the movie, you have the blood of kings. And she really does. She's very noble. I love her. I honestly thought I wasn't gonna like her because I just got the dirtiest looks from two people. I didn't think I was gonna like her because from everything that I've seen on the internet, she kind of seems like that like helpless little girl that like has like that like, and then she becomes a badass and like and does something at the end, and I didn't know, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like her or not for this unrequited love thing, but no, I love her.
But we know she's a shield maiden.
Well, now I know. I didn't really get much of her from the book. We didn't see much of her in the book. We see more of her in the movie. And
I don't think we see more of her in the movie. I think she's
just not mentioned in the book as much.
Yeah, she's out.
She's still there, but she's not really mentioned versus she's there in the movie. And I have such an appreciation for her. And I just love it. And I love how Aragorn has an appreciation for her skills as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the reasons why she likes him or like appreciates him so much is because he actually appreciates her skills versus her brother, her uncle, that sort of thing. They're all like,
they just want to protect her. They want to protect her very.
They want to protect her, which
they
I mean,
love
they do
her. They want
appreciate
to
her
protect her.
skills. Yeah, but it's that overprotective instinct that is coming in and clouding things.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, how old are you? 64. What?
He's 87.
Oh, okay, that's even better. 87.
yeah, she's like,
it's 64 from.
I don't know either. But she's like, are you 60? 70? You couldn't possibly be 80. 87? Yeah, it was fun. But then we shift back to Sam and Frodo, and they're really laying it on thick with Frodo starting to be corrupted.
Yeah, because
it's more subtle in the book, I think.
Well, yeah, he's starting to admire the ring. He takes it out to look at it.
Yeah, he's petting it.
But the other thing I find
Am I the only one that found that creepy and very Gollum-y and too much at that time? Like, I don't think he was at a point where he would be petting the ring at that point in this story. I felt that was too much. Am I the only one?
Yep.
I think part of it movie-wise is for movie things, you have to a lot of times demonstrate things more like physically than you can like mentally going on with things because you can't be inside the character's head the whole entire book like you can in a book.
Right.
So they have to demonstrate things more with like what is mentally going on with the character physically because you're not just going to have voiceover monologue because oh my gosh, we would all want to go bury something.
But and this is also where Frodo says he wants to believe that Gollum can come back.
Okay.
And it's not really, I mean, if you read between the lines, it's because
he wants to hope for himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
then we get that. Well, you go first.
Well, I even wrote down the timestamp. 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 48 seconds. This is where Gollum is having the argument with Smeagol.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It was Gollum versus Smeagol, and they did it so well. I really, really loved how they did it.
Yeah. And I watched it really closely this time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always thought that Gollum was on the left-hand side because that's the sinister side.
Mm-hmm.
But it almost feels like it changes, or at least the camera angle makes it look like it changes.
Okay.
Also, the difference in the eye color is not as prominent as I remember it being. When he's Gollum, his eyes are just a little bit duller, but for some reason I remembered them being
dramatically different,
darker. Yeah,
because that's something I didn't even notice.
Because you can usually tell the good guys because they have blue eyes.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you can just watch Orlando Bloom's eyes change color.
Oh yeah, that is. I've heard that. I've heard that.
It is very entertaining to watch.
Okay, I did hear that you should watch Orlando Bloom whenever he's in the background of a scene, because he basically just didn't know what was going on half the time and he just makes expressions based on what's happening with him not knowing what's supposed to be happening. And I've heard that that's something really fun to do. And I did notice it a few times where he had like a few like kind of like weird expressions where it's just like, huh? Yeah, like, like very expressive things in the background, and it was fun to actually see that for myself. I was glad that I was told to look out for that because I really enjoyed that. And then we get another internet meme, the potato scene.
Yeah, my brother-in-law quotes this scene so much. So much. Like on Saturday when we had people over for birthdays, he quoted this scene. We had potatoes.
Potatoes.
Yep. Yeah. And then I have the note where my autocorrect really messed with me. It says, Oleo hands are huge. Now, does anyone have any guess what I was trying to say? Because I have no idea.
Oleo hands are huge?
Oleo hands are huge. I don't know what I was trying to say.
Which is the way you go throughout the day.
That is true. But yeah, I have no idea what I was trying to say there. Oleo hands are huge. I don't know what note I was making.
Someone's huge hands. I don't recall anyone having huge hands.
No, she just typed it so badly. That's what it autocorrected to.
Normally, there's like some semblance of more actual like tangible words ish.
I mean, it must have happened in between, because in my notes it says potato scene, Oleo hands are huge, and then romance shot. And I wrote, and so it has to be between the romance shot between Aragorn and, oh my god, why am I blanking on her name?
Arwen, yeah.
Arwen, yeah.
Arwen. So the romance shot and potato scene. So somewhere in there, I wrote this. So listeners, if you have any clue what you think I was trying to say, help me, please.
But it's interesting because, here, Erwin is, told, basically says goodbye.
Yeah. Well, more Aragorn says goodbye.
Well, yeah, that too. But Elrond is kind of, just...
He's really pushing it.
He's really pushing it, right.
Yeah, he's playing the dad card.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. And we get the flashback of Gadriel speaking to Elrond about the future.
Right. Oh, I thought they were just psychically communicating.
No, I think that's...
I thought it was like elf magic or something.
I see it as the past. Because it's going on at the same time as the other callback. Okay,
so like honestly, like with the way elf magic works, I totally believed it was elf magic. But then
where are you going?
The battle starts.
Nope.
Oh, did I miss something first?
Well, so in the book, we really don't get this much, but I love that Boromir is just sick and tired of his father always making him greater than he is and always making Faramir worse than he is.
That's a flashback after the battle starts. Because I have that after the battle starts.
Okay. I didn't know anything about the battle because the battle is the battle.
Battle is the battle. But there's a few things to be said about it. For the Battle of Helm's Deep.
No. This is before because I have the don't toss the dwarf.
The don't toss the dwarf was like 2/3 of the way into the battle.
Right.
Yeah, so the battle starts and then there's the flashbacks.
All right, whatever.
Are you talking about the battle with the wargs or whatever prior to them actually getting to Helm's Deep, where Aragorn falls off the cliff?
He
takes the tumble off the cliff. Or are we actually talking about like actual legit Helm's Deep?
Yeah, because Aragon falls off the cliff because I make the joke about he's floating in the water with his arms wide. He's
Yeah, I was gonna
Messiah
say,
figure.
we're not at Helm's
Yeah.
Deep yet.
Yeah, we're not Helm's Deep yet. He falls into.
There's the battle with the wargs, and he takes the tumble off the cliff.
Yep.
And he loses the
He
even
goes
star.
he goes in the water and he's
Well,
baptized and becomes the Messiah.
Anyway, every movie he can find a Messiah figure.
There are only
Messiah?
3 movies.
Messiah?
A Messiah figure. There are only 3 movies. Boy Meets Girl, Boy Saves World, Messiah. You can put every movie ever made into one of those 3 categories.
Or multiple.
Or multiple.
What about Save the World, Save the Cheerleader?
I've never seen it. But just from the
That's the quote from that's a quote from Heroes.
Oh.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. Boy saves girl, boy saves world, and boy is Messiah figure.
Yeah, so we also because we also get some more of the Eowyn being kind of gaga over Aragon
and the elves deciding to leave, and we get the flashbacks of Faramir. I wrote down we see Faramir's dad is a explicitive that we can't say on this podcast.
And Eowyn wants to fight. She doesn't want to go and
they encourage her. It's like, you need to lead them if this goes bad, because this is probably going to go bad.
Right.
And we have the Battle of Helm's Deep, which I have some fun facts about it. That because I looked it up because I remember watching Game of Thrones and everyone making a huge deal that the big fight scene in the last season was going to overshadow the Battle of Helm's Deep, which was this huge deal. And so I looked up why that was such a huge deal. Well, up until Game of Thrones, and I want to just spice this by saying this isn't really a hot take. This is an everyone's take, essentially. It wasn't that good. The Longest Night, it wasn't that good. It was a terrible battle. It was really dark. My favorite character dies, and then a little girl stabs the main guy in the stomach, and then everything is hunky-dory, and nothing that was leading up to it made any sense, and it had no consequences for anyone. That being said...
That sounds like George Martin's writing, period, though.
No, it was definitely
No, if you ever read the books, that's his writing. Mm-mm. He's very weird about that stuff.
Anyway, it was terrible. But leading up to it, Helm's Deep was the longest battle in cinematic history for TV movies, period. It was the longest battle up until the Game of Thrones battle, if you can count it as one. You could barely see it.
According to you.
And
then Helm's watched the show, so I don't know.
Yeah. And then Helm's Deep was filmed over the course of 3 months. I don't know if the record has been broken, but at the time, it was the most amount of extras ever for a scene. For the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Extras got shirts that said "I survived Helm's Deep."
Yes, not only that, but because of how many extras there are, people will be walking around New Zealand and they'll just randomly run into other people with those shirts and be like, "Hey, you were there, yeah!" Like people, like they literally have a yearly get together for all the extras too, that a lot of them go to, because like a lot of them made friends during this time. And then obviously it was raining for most of the battle in the film. Apparently, like almost 75% of the rain was natural. Like apparently a lot of the rain was like, it was just raining and they just added to it. So it was just all these extras and these heavy, bulky armor, just miserable and wet and muddy.
Yeah.
And these actors trying to act, and it's still raining in between takes.
Yeah, and it's not filming for this movie, but one of my favorite photos that comes out of the back of the, behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
is somebody dressed up as a Nazgul with a big umbrella over himself, and then another person behind him with the umbrella like that to keep the wind from blowing the water on his back.
Oh,
Because I'm sure those robes got really heavy when they got wet. And then this is.
but we see more of Faramir and Boromir. I want to talk about that a little bit too.
Okay, go ahead.
So in the books, we see Boromir really pressuring Frodo for the ring, not for him, or at least he tells himself not for himself, but for the good of Gondor. And we see in the movie and the second film, we see his dad is really peer pressuring him. Like, this is parental pressure to the max. And that really kind of gets that mindset of Boromir in context, which makes him even more sympathetic, I think, like I mentioned before. And we see Faramir, like, I really liked this part of Faramir's story where he's like, here he comes, and he's just like, if it's so important, I'll go and Boromir can stay here. And Dad's like, oh no you don't. The dad's such a nah. It's so rude.
He gets worse. Just wait.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
And then
He gets worse.
and then here, yeah, and when we and we get, and it's not exactly here, but time wise, it's supposed to be here, where Treebeard, we go back to Treebeard, and
yeah. At this point, we get back to Treebeard,
and
again, I just have the ends look so cool.
yeah, and the line that I like that comes from him is like, I like going south. It feels like I'm walking downhill.
I like that too.
And then we get the March of the Ents.
Yes, the ends were really cool, but again, as a departure from the books, the ends take forever to decide to go to war. They decide not to right away. It takes a little bit to get them to actually go, and it's Merry and Pippin who are like really trying to like push them to go. And I was reading a little bit about it, and I can't remember which one said it, but one of them said it's like, it was really nice to be able to do that because it made us look less like luggage.
Oh,
Which I guess that's a criticism Merry and Pippin get sometimes, but I don't get that from them. But I can kind of understand where some people might think that if they just saw them, if they just read, like, if they read fast.
right.
But yeah, so the Ents go to war, and I am a sucker for nature taking back. I'm a sucker for it. Like all those Miyazaki movies, like The Valley of the Wind, like those type of movies. Yes. Can you tell I'm an environmental scientist? Yes. Do I want the world to just flood over and kill everyone? Yes. So
that would include you,
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah. Fine.
So yeah,
but yeah,
so now we get into the Battle of Helm's Deep, and one of the things, every time I see it, I just find it to be so cool, is the design of the great horns.
Okay.
I mean, just they're made so only one person needs to blow in it, and it makes this huge sound. And and these are supposed to be like warning horns, but there's all kinds of ruins and drawings on them and stuff like that. It's just,
it was really cool.
It's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. But then we have what I don't like, which is Faramir is just like, the ring will go to Gondor, and he's like,
which is not in the book at all.
It's not in the book at all. He's like taking him there, and it's like, and it's kind of like, it's framed like he's also in peer pressure with his dad. But to me, I thought it was a disservice for the character, because the character in the book, he's so wise at such a young age, where he was practically raised by Gandalf.
Right.
And he knows immediately. It's like, I know that this is the ring of power. I know that you're trying to destroy it. I can get that from context clues. You should go about your way. We'll cover you. Get out of here. And it's just, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like it.
I don't like it when they change it that much.
I get it, but I also don't get it. And I also wrote, because I'm saying that, I also didn't get why they would show another battle simultaneously. The 3 different ones, but like the third one they just throw in at wherever that is. I'm assuming it's in Gondor somewhere.
But they're all taking place at the same time.
It doesn't matter though. Cinematically, it doesn't make sense. And for a film adaptation, it doesn't make sense.
All right, so cinematically, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I have made a point over and over again that Tolkien does away with all the proper ways to write a book.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, we have what's happening in Isengard. We have what's happening at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Showing those 2 simultaneously makes sense. This third thing that we have no context for, that we've never seen before, that we don't really care about, that doesn't make sense to me cinematically.
Well, that's because you haven't watched the last 5.5 hours of this movie sets.
Yeah, but why introduce it in this movie when?
Because they're happening the same time.
But you could just reference it or show it in the third movie or something, I feel like. Because I feel like it does a disservice, because it takes away from the action of what we care about versus this thing we don't really care about.
I think one of the reasons why I like the way it is because the Battle of Helm's Deep is very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's people following different orders. You know, there's things going on and so forth, and people are, you know, I would say a regular soldier is probably like, what's going on here? So they make us feel that way by adding the third battle in at the same time.
I still don't like it. What do you think, Hannah?
I mean,
as someone who's only seen the movies, what do you think?
Logically, it makes sense to show what's happening there because Faramir has taken Frodo. So it allows you to see what's happening with Frodo and Sam while you're still getting everything else.
But they never go there.
There's no point. Evelyn, you have to realize that not everyone is going to read the books. And all of
and
this.
if they
so
did,
what they are doing
if they
to
did,
the I
it was
realize
when they were
you
in high
hate
school,
this.
didn't want to.
I realize that you hate this movie-wise because it doesn't happen in the book and you character things and that sort of thing. But cinematically, for people who have only watched the book or read words, watched the movie, I can talk. I'm an adult. When he says that they're taking the ring to Gondor, you have to then get them out of Gondor. And so you have to have that moment of Faramir realizing that. Because to your point of Faramir has been raised by Gandalf, people who have watched the movies don't know that because that's not shown in movies until it's referenced slightly in the third movie.
And it's also,
I think it would have done more service though to portray Faramir the way he was supposed to be portrayed, not even have the hobbits go anywhere near that battle.
In the context,
or I guess it's a way to bring the battle into the film since it's happening at the same time.
But they were there during the battle.
Oh, is this getting into spoilers now?
So, and I'll bring up,
is this one of those things that happens in the third book that we don't know yet that I shouldn't know?
I'm going to my favorite trope. It's not a trope. My favorite thing I like to compare. So you don't make a movie that follows the book because you get no surprises. It's just like Ella Enchanted. Ella Enchanted, the book, and Ella Enchanted, the movie are completely different. No, I don't like Harry Potter.
I would use the Harry Potter reference more because I view Harry Potter the movies and the Harry Potter the books as separate entities, and I guess I should be doing that for the Lord of the Rings stuff. But
you can't expect.
But Ella Enchanted, that's a sore subject for me.
But see, Ella Enchanted is a movie made for children, and they even did that for a child's book.
they changed it. Literally the only thing that was the same was that she was cursed, that she couldn't lie. That was literally the only thing that was the same.
And it kept me engaged because instead of going, oh, that's in the book and they didn't do a good job, where they missed this part.
Well, I don't mind it when they change. Okay, I don't mind it when movies change stuff from books. I don't that much. It's when it fundamentally changes a character and a character trait and development. That's when I feel affronted. And that's what I feel about Faramir.
Okay.
And everything to do with it just upsets me. Does that make more sense?
No, but go ahead.
It does to me.
Thank you.
But
we're like the same age. We have different generational.
But then, you know, Gandalf the White arrives with the reinforcements.
Yay.
You know, said, you know.
I said the cavalry arrives, LOL.
Yeah. But also, you know, look for me on the 5th day. And that's when he shows up.
Which
I thought it was the
I
3rd
kind
day.
of like that they explicitly say it in the movie, because in the books you're like, where is he? Is he gonna help out? What's going on here? Versus like the movie, they're like, no. It'll be fine. It's gonna be fine. Just wait.
And the Treebeard, the Treebeard and the tree ants battle, we kind of get interlocked in there too.
Yes, and I love that. Oh, am I just a sucker for that?
They just do that so well, in my opinion. So they just show that battle so well.
My note says, "Release the river," and nature, mother effers. But yeah, you know
I do love releasing the river. And then the one ant who gets set on fire, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna put myself out, dunk." Right.
Yep. Right. And it's that battle scene and the Helm's Deep scene. You can watch it 7-8 times and see little things up in the corners going on that they put them there.
Yes.
I mean, they were
it was so thought out.
Detailed.
Because something that we mentioned in our watching the movie episode, but we'll mention it this year too, when they made the models for the for Helm's Deep and for Isengard, they made them 360. We don't see back views of Helm's Deep. We see 360 of Isengard, but we don't see it of Helm's Deep. But they have it so brilliantly done, which really puts the actors in it. It puts the entire production crew in it. You can see their heart and souls in it. Every little thing is thought out. I would love to watch these scenes 7 or 8 times alone, just to see what I missed.
So one of the really cool things that absolutely nobody would have seen, you know, in the movie is, so the king's breastplate, they drew the white tree inside. So every time he put that gear on as an actor, he saw that. And it was kind of, and he found it as an inspiration, exactly why they put it.
Okay, nice.
You know, remember what you're fighting for type of thing.
Okay.
I mean, any other movie maker would have put a, you know, a drawing of a Oscar there.
But yeah, and so we get towards the end of the movie now. The battles are won. Do we have anything else to say about the battles before we get to the end of the movie?
I like how we get the surprise of gunpowder. We get the bomb.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, the sewer with.
I just thought it was magic. Well, I mean, gunpowder was considered magic back then, so.
I have always liked the line at the beginning of the Battle of Helm's Deep where Legolas asks Gimli if he wants him to describe it or if he needs to get him a box. Because every time I watch it, I always think of you, because we're both short. And being in college and trying to like find either each other or like other people who are relatively short, and us being like jumping, being like, I can't see because we're short. And It was always problematic.
Well, I love, so in the books, I love Legolas and Gimli's bromance. Their bromance is amazing. And it kind of reminds us of our yes.
But there's a point, so after the battle, there's a point where Frodo is walking towards the Nazgul in the movie.
Yes, yeah.
And that's just, if you've never
They're
read
really playing up the corruption, but that part I liked.
Yeah.
I liked that play up of the corruption.
But if you never read the books either, that just,
it really sets up
visually it sets up the stakes that it takes 5 or 6 pages in the book to set up.
Yeah. Something I really liked at the end of the movie is when Sam, so Gollum makes his decision where he's like, I'll bring her to her. I'll bring them to her. Which in the book we find out. So in the book we see Shelob.
Spoiler alert.
In the book we see Shelob, and I understand why they decided to split that into like the third movie. Like that makes sense to me story wise, the way that they've been doing the movies.
Well, it was 4 hours long with the extended version.
But if they didn't have that other battle, they could have done her. But anyway, so they
would have done her as well, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like, okay, I'm a 27-year-old woman, and I am still freaked out about Shelob.
I mean, I'm still freaked out about Gollum. They did him great too.
Because and I talked about this a little bit in a previous podcast episode, but the real freaky thing about Shelob, and they do it a little bit in the movie, is Shelob does not have spider eyes. Shelob has like 100 mammal eyes. And that just, exactly. Yeah.
You don't see her freaking out, but Hannah's like going the nope.
And then there's the whole speculation by a lot of Tolkien experts that the reason why in The Hobbit he has the spiders that gets everybody and is rescued by Bilbo with this with
the same sword
with Sting, and also he had some experience of getting bit by a spider.
But didn't he actually write that it's like it had nothing to do with that? Well, yeah. He just really liked the idea of spiders.
But wouldn't you though? If somebody keeps pointing out that you're afraid of spiders, and that's why you keep putting them in the movie, goes, I didn't know that didn't happen.
I mean, if I started suddenly writing about small birds and hornets, and someone accused me of that, I would definitely say yes.
So, I mean, I'm going to go right through. So I like Sam's monologue about the great stories.
You loved his monologue.
Yeah, we're going to be in the great stories. It's like, oh, Grandpa, tell me about Frodo. And
then there's a really sweet moment where Frodo's like, and he couldn't have done it without his Sam. And it's adorable. It's so sweet. I got a cavity. But I love when Sam tries to explain to Gollum that Frodo was trying to save him. Like, it's almost like he could sense that Gollum was like going to do something, like gonna betray them because of this thing. And he's just like, he was trying to save you, just keep that in mind. And it's like, and that's definitely a departure from Sam in the books, where Sam's like, I'm gonna throttle you
yep.
And where he treats Gollum so terribly.
And then there's
so it's definitely a change.
And the two of the scenes towards the end of the film that I really like is, so we've been traveling through this muddy battle.
Yes.
Not just one muddy battle.
But like 3.
Yeah. But we get Pippin and Merry finding food and pipeweed, and everything is good with the world.
Yes.
I think my favorite thing that I've seen, I think is on time, and I'm pretty sure I've sent this to you, Evelyn, is Lord of the Rings takes on such a different connotation when you realize that Merry Pippin just were looking for drugs and like got brought along on this wild adventure
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they were looking
Yep.
for the mushrooms. Then
They were looking for some pipe weed.
They looked
But-
all, it
yeah.
was great. Like,
But then, yeah,
Which is different than the books, because in the books they're just like, oh no, this is a conspiracy. We've been planning on going with you for months now.
yeah.
Yeah, in the books it's more of a conspiracy, but in the movies it's just like, oh, we're just the stoner cousins that came along.
Yep. Great.
Which I appreciate both.
they
of
have
those.
it in pints. Okay, yeah. But here towards the end is where Faramir shows his worth in his metal.
Mhm.
Okay, so they couldn't have done that if they wouldn't have shown him earlier, because it would have
I
taken so much
guess.
longer in a context of a visual medium to show that, the type of person Faramir was. So we get
Okay.
we get a redemption story here.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I love a good redemption arc. It's just he didn't need.
That's true. And then, if you don't know the books, we know this is ending before something
Bad is
else
about to happen.
happen.
Yeah, it definitely has like that sinister feel as Frodo, Sam, and Gollum are like taking off.
Yep.
Is
So,
that your foot or the cat? Okay.
it could have been the cat. Cat's been down here and back up upstairs. I don't know why he thinks we want anything to do with him.
Well, he loves me. He loves Mom, and he wants you to love him, but you don't, so he tries extra hard with you.
Because it's a cat.
He doesn't like cats, folks, but cats love him.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well, we
typically
can,
with
do a whole
people like
podcast on that, but
cats.
we won't.
Cats will love you and like stalk you.
Until you love them, and then they're jerks, and then they
Yeah.
just scream at you all day.
Yeah, I've been visiting people's
I have
houses.
2 of them, so like,
Yeah. I've been visiting people's houses, and the cat would jump in my lap, and the owner always goes, "He never does that." It's like, because of course he doesn't. All right, I think we're done. Anything else? Anything else, Hannah?
no, I don't think
That
so.
we
This
didn't
was fun.
cover?
Thanks for having me.
Sure, not a problem. We're
If
glad you're
Evelyn
able to
looks at her
join us.
phone to double check that you didn't miss anything.
I know, I'm making sure. I mean, except for that one note, I think I got everything.
Whoever has huge hands.
Someone has huge hands, apparently. Maybe it was a direct thing about someone having huge hands. Knowing me, I probably would have said something like that.
Ents have huge hands?
Maybe
If you-
maybe it was that.
Was it Ents have huge hands?
Sure.
Was that in between?
Maybe I'll. But that's the only thing.
Again,
That's the
it was
only
between the
character.
potato scene and the romance shot.
So,
I don't remember.
I don't either.
all righty. I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Hannah.
Yes,
Oh,
thanks for
happy.
coming.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
And you guys got to see each other.
Well, we're hoping to get together in 2 weeks to see the Marvel movie.
I don't know.
I'm
You
gonna
never
text you when
texted
I'm
me
off.
the day you were off, so I have no clue.
I'm off in 2 weeks. We'll figure it out. But yeah.
All right.
So I've been Evelyn,
And I've been Robert.
and we're talking about it.
See you next time.